Welcome back to the Lads Talking Footy podcast. Jordan, if you can't beat them, bite them. Flanagan, man, he had a little bunch on Critta over the weekend. Argentina, they score the most points against All Blacks in New Zealand. A 100-metre sprint on grand final day, and we're going to preview round 24. All of that is to come, but before we get into it, mate, how are you going?
Yeah, good, bro. Just want to give a quick shout out to the Dolphins for winning the Tana Cup, getting it back off the Warriors. Broke my heart to see that because I thought we were primed for an absolute comeback there, but unfortunately it was not meant to be. Sullivan's left foot from 40 meters out getting the job done. So congratulations to the Dolphins. You've got the Tana Cup.
Yeah, both of those teams had one hand on each, so it looked like they didn't want to give it up. I almost thought it was going to go to a draw with how we were going throughout that game, but nonetheless, Sean Sullivan, man, stepped up. I heard he actually got dropped from topside and he got dropped from reserve grade, and then he comes up and he does this for them as well. So a hell of a roller coaster. I guess one roller coaster as well as in the rugby union game, and that's whenever the All Blacks play in Wellington, mate. So Argentina, they win 38-30 against them over the weekend. The most points ever scored against the All Blacks. Not the way we wanted to kick off the rugby championships. I thought it would be tight, but I didn't think it'd be a loss, mate.
Yeah, I didn't either. I think we were saying last week that we're pretty confident that we were going to get the job done, but to Argentina's credit, they were pretty fucking ferocious from the get-go, man. Like, you could just tell there was an intensity right from the anthems that they were going to bring into this game, and you can see it in the way they played. Like, they really attacked the breakdown. They had really fast line speed, hard defense, and in the early stages, especially that first half, they were giving away a lot of penalties, but you could tell that was kind of their intent to toe the line and put us under a lot of pressure, and they did, man. And they found a lot of success as well around our midfield, like just chopping hard lines with some of the midfielders that were running for them. And there was also some stuff I saw with that line-out try as well from Argentina, where there was a little bit of innovation, and it's kind of like the rugby weekend for line-out innovation, because we saw them do something pretty creative here. They hit one of the front men with who was not jumping and had a dummy jumper going behind. So obviously the point of counter maul for the All Blacks was not in the right spot, and it helped them get over the line. And we saw something similar from South Africa in their game against the Wallabies, where they did something absolutely like even more crazy by going to their B target. Yeah, Twin Towers, having the A target pop up and popping it back to him and then doing the maul from there. So some crazy stuff going on with the lineouts at the moment in international rugby. But to be fair, if we're going to stay on the topic of innovation, we didn't see a lot of innovation from the All Blacks, especially around that pod play. And we were you mentioned it last week. You were wondering if they were going to show their chance their arm a little bit and show what they had been training in terms of innovation and stuff around that pod play. But I don't really see it again. And I think this result was like more of an indictment of our performance as opposed to Argentina's, because we weren't really up to the contest. Like, the defense was pretty poor. 38 points obviously expresses that. And, you know, we couldn't slow down their ruck, and we also gave away a lot of penalties ourselves. So, yeah, it was a pretty rough one for the All Blacks. And I think we did deserve to lose that game.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's when you're watching that game, especially the tail end of it, we were obviously trying to chase the game, but we were chasing way too hard, and we are just throwing these massive skip out passes, it's such a cliche term in the way that you have to earn the right to go wide, but the simple fact of it is that, because if you're just cheating and going wide so quickly and so early like that, you're not going to be getting that gain line, and you haven't got that advantage with you to be able to secure the ball, and they were turning it over, making silly mistakes, and it was a shame. And it's not like we haven't seen that from the All Blacks before as well, and like quite recently too, where that game, it isn't going our way. Instead of those sort of calmer heads sort of coming together and, you know, playing the percentage play a little bit more and trying to apply pressure back on them, we just started, you know, throwing our toys out of the cot, I guess, and just really trying to chase the game from anywhere, which was a little bit of a shame. But I guess the only thing you can sort of look at is Razor will be better for these situations, and rugby is better as well when you've got things like this. It's extremely competitive, and you can really see these teams, they're lifting. That's, you know, obviously we're the cream of the crop, and everyone is going to rise and want to take that All Black scalp. You saw how much it meant to the Argentinians, and you
Yeah.
saw them straight after the game, and they said they've never beaten us twice, and that's what they want. They're going to come out here and they're going to hit it running, and that's crazy to think that that's the first thing that pops up into their mind. This most historic win, the most points scored against an All Black team, and the first thing they say is we want to do it back to back as well. So
Yeah.
that's what it is. What the All Blacks have, they have that target on their back. And they'll learn from this. But I do think that rugby is in a good spot. And it is quite cool to see these teams being quite creative with such, I guess, a boring fundamental part. It's not like you're going to see trick plays at the scrum. Yeah. But it is good to see these innovative things happening at the line out. Looking forward, though, I mean, the Wellington record is very shaky, but the Eden Park one certainly isn't, mate. Do you think the Argentinians can go back to back? Or do you think we are going to rise up and take this out?
Yeah, so... this game, like I said before, was more of an indictment from us. I definitely think we can make adjustments to turn this result. And there was even things like you mentioned as well in terms of just like skills that were really bad. Those two loose passes in the last 10 minutes that led to the eventual game-winning try for Argentina, that's just not good enough for All Blacks rugby. And we don't usually see that in back-to-back games. There was also something that Perinara was doing in the first half as well. He was drifting away from his box kick, and he got charged down or tipped like about 3 times. So there is just little things that we can change that can definitely turn this result. I do look at Argentina's performance, and they were still missing a lot of tackles. And, you know, we were still scoring whenever we were given the opportunity on their line. But in this next game, we need to lift. And I think we will lift because if you look at Razor's like history with the Crusaders, he is known for making adjustments and, you know, you saw with the finals, like he would lose games to the Chiefs and the Blues in the regular season. Come that final time, he'll make the proper adjustments and get the Crusaders over the line for the championship. And then history would just suggest that we will turn these results, because if you look in 2022 when they beat us last, we won the next game 53-3. And then in 2020 when they beat us the first time, we won the next game 38-0. So I say we can win this, and I'm not going to be like a prisoner to history, but history is the biggest teacher, and I do think we're going to win comfortably, especially at Eden Park.
Oh, I'm going to be a prisoner to history, mate. I think we're winning this, and we're winning it well. I will be investing in that too. I don't think the All Blacks will lose back-to-back here. They'll keep the Eden Park record going. But, man, a fired-up Argentinian team, and they're just chasing that first team to beat them since, was it 1995, 1996 or something there? That would be unreal if they could do that. So it's going to be a great game to watch, mate. Now, I said before, if you can't beat them, mate, bite them. Stephen Crichton, he was bitten by Kyle Flanagan on the weekend. Flano has been referred to the judiciary. We're still waiting to see what the ban will be. I've seen a lot of people saying 6 weeks. I guess the one that you could judge it off and what people are calling is Whiten. He's the most recent person to have bitten someone in the NRL. He got 3 weeks. I guess the only thing is, Flano went for the nose, and the video of it is pretty crazy. It's almost kind of sick when they slow it down and you see him. Stephen Crichton, he's getting at Flanagan on the ground there. He's all up in his face. He's chirping to him, and you can see Flano sort of going around, and I guess his mouth just finds the nose, and it looks like it kind of like stretches out in a little rubbery thing. But what's with players and biting? Because this is not the first time it's happened in the NRL.
Nah, it's a really like nasty seeing red play. Like, I can understand his situation because he's got his forehead directly into his head and he is just rubbing it in, giving him a whole lot of grief down there. But I think he just saw red and went blind with rage and just lashed out and bit the first thing he could. And he did a bit of damage. It looked like it was like kind of like blood. I don't know if it was from another injury or cut, but it did look like it did a bit of damage. So I'm thinking, at the very least 3 weeks, if that's what Whiten got. I'm thinking because it's to the face, I'd probably go another 3. I'd say 6 weeks in total for Flanagan.
Yeah, so you agree. I'd probably lean around maybe 4 to 5, and I think he's just going to go off the mitigating factors on it, and he couldn't see what he was biting. He was trying to breathe, and it obviously just locked on, I guess, but pretty nasty, man. And it did look like all of that did come from it, because there was a decent amount of blood, and it looked like underneath his nose, you saw a few photos come out afterwards. There was a little bit coming off the back of it. So pretty nasty, man. And yeah, a little bit stink for old Shane Flanagan having to send your son off to the judiciary.
I think it'll be. I don't want to get too political here, but I think it'll be an indictment on the state of the world we're in if Flanagan gets less of a suspension than Spencer Leniu.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Because actually, like he bit a guy like on the nose, like could have like
Yeah.
busted his nose up, and all Leniu did was spread a bit of chirp. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't think 6 weeks should be. I think it should be at least 6 weeks.
Yeah, I agree with you, but yeah, I don't know. Play on. Now, the NRL, they have announced the other day that they're going to introduce a 100-meter race, grand final day. Looks like there's going to be goal kicking, the longest kick, and a forward sprint, mate. All to feature in this as well. We've been calling for it. I'll go first. I think the grand final day, I think it's going to be a little bit tricky. You've obviously got a lot of teams that aren't making the finals round, so they've booked their holidays. We did see Adam Fanua-Blake's partner put up on her story the other day that they're looking forward to their September holidays. But that's a story for another day. I don't know. I feel like this could have maybe been targeted around Origin's a little bit hard because you've got all the players playing State of Origin. But maybe looking at doing it at like Magic Round, sorry, and potentially you've got all the teams there earlier and do it like maybe the day before all of the games kick off, because you've got heaps. I don't know how the logistics are going to go around it all, but I do really like to see it. And I think that the introducing the big boppers, the forward sprint off as well, that'll be really good to see. And the kicking to go along with all of it, it's cool to see if the NRL can sort of hone in on like an all-stars sort of weekend kind of vibe, and just hopefully it doesn't go towards like what we see in the NFL as well. But do you reckon it's going to happen on the field or on a track?
Oh, I think it's going to happen on the field, like on the same field that the grand final will be played at.
Yeah.
I think they're just going to have the whole day and the whole event for the fans to kind of follow along through that day leading up to the grand final. And I'm super excited for this, man. Rugby league, the NRL in general, are just making all the right moves lately in terms of promoting their sport and growing their sport and trying to reach different audiences. And I think this is going to be fantastic. Like, not only the sprint, which we've been calling for ages and is what I'm looking forward to the most by far, but also the big boppers. And then that long distance kicking thing is going to be pretty entertaining as well, to see if anyone can slot it like Francois Steinspec from about 60 out. So I'm really looking forward to all these events, and I think it's a cool move from the NRL.
I agree. I almost hope that like the way that they do it is maybe not just to get like just a one race off sort of thing, or even throughout all of the events, just each team has to put up like one player in their top 30 squad just to compete in it all. And they could bring some real incentives into it as well, where they'll, you get, maybe the club gets like prize money or something where you get a little bonus on top of it as well, just to add that competition flair to it too. But I completely agree with you. The NRL just seem to keep on ticking boxes. So rugby union, just take a leaf out of that book. We're going to move into accountability now, mate. So do you want to take us away on the weekend?
Yeah, it was pretty good picking by you. You got 6 out of 8, and then I unfortunately tried to go with some Sunday shenanigans, which is taking me down to 4 out of 8. Still a pass, but not really when there's a lot of favorites in the round. Speaking of favorites, the Storm beat the Rabbitohs 28-16 in a dusty performance that's cost us both. They well and truly looked like they were going to run away with it, which we've both tipped here. I've gone Storm 13+, which hasn't hit, and Anderson anytime try scorer, which has hit. So unlucky miss there by 1 point.
Yeah, and I've gone Storm 13+, and Pappenhausen to score. Pappenhausen hits, but the Storm don't come over at $2.50.
And then a somewhat surprising result just by the sheer domination of it. Sharks beating the Titans 44-0. I've actually gone the Titans to win a -6.5 line, which hasn't hit.
Yeah, and I've done way worse than you, mate. I've gone Kenny, AKP, and the Titans to win at $4.33. The Titans, they didn't even get a line break the whole game.
Oh, man, and it's a credit to the Sharks defense, because they've been actually defending really well lately. And who would have thought that maybe their best combo for the halves is like Atkinson and McInnes? I know it was meant to be Brayley, but McInnes was playing the majority of the game there, and it looked pretty good. So, hey, man, Sharks might have found something. Panthers, unbelievable comeback, beating the Eels 36-34. 16 points in the space of about 3 minutes to help me get over the line with my bet. I've gone Panthers head-to-head and Targo anytime try scorer, and that was double stake. So a good win for me there.
Nice, good hit on that one, mate. I've gone Panthers to win, but I've gone Dane Lowry to score anytime try scorer. He hasn't come through there at $2.50.
And then your boys, the Seagulls, doing an absolute number on the Raiders, 46-24. I've kind of seen this coming with the Seagulls -8.5, which has hit.
Nice, and I've gone Turbo into Manly to win at $2.50, so we've come through there.
And then this was good tipping by you, and something that was relatively unexpected given the Broncos' recent form, but they just have the Cowboys number, and they well and truly did a number on the Cowboys here. 42-18. They have hit that total points over 50.5 for me, but of course I've backed the Cowboys, which hasn't come through.
Nice, mate. And if you're familiar with the stock market, you'll hear a term called the dead cat bounce. It's where everyone's running away from something. Run towards it, mate. Full steam ahead. I went Broncos 13+. Katoni Staggs to score anytime try scorer, but I just tried to blanket it and boost the odds a little bit more with Jesse Arthurs, who hasn't come through. $24.50. We go down there, but yeah, I kind of wish I just went heavy on the Broncos 13+ there.
Yeah, tough miss. But you've gone good here again. The Bulldogs beating the Dragons 28-10. I have not, because the Bulldogs have done a decent number on the Dragons. I've gone Bulldogs 1-12, which hasn't hit.
Nice, and I've struggled picking try scorers from Dogs matches this year. They seem all over the show, but Matty Burden, Dogs to win, $4.50, you can cash that.
And then a bit of a heartbreaking result here. The Dolphins beating the Warriors 34-32. Like we said in Golden Point with the Sean O'Sullivan left boot from 40+ out. I've actually backed the Warriors to cover the +7.5 line, which they have done.
Nice. And I've taken Bostock into SJ, anytime try scorer, which has given me a nice void there. I double staked that one as well. So luckily, SJ doesn't come through for me.
Yeah, king of the push. We haven't seen one in a few weeks, so it's good to see that back. Knights beating the Tigers 34-18. A bit of a dusty old game. Tigers +9.5 has not hit. They've been blown out.
Yeah, and the Knights really ran through, but unfortunately, Caleb Ponga wasn't getting the lion's share of any of those tries. He doesn't go over for me. $2.40, we go down there. My repeat set bet, mate. Winning formula. Storm, Panthers, Dogs, all to win, $2.20. It cashes in again, and all of the favourites to win at $13.62. We go down there. I believe I missed by one leg, and that was the Sharks and the Titans leg. And I heard that the Sharks were actually, before this, were ruled as favourites to win that, like way out earlier before the teams got announced, and that shifted. So not bad, mate. You might see something similar in the 40-20s coming up. There's a +3.2 unit collect for me on the round as well, which takes the current units to 66.52 on the season.
Yeah, very nice. We go from red hot repeat set betting to ice cold repeat set betting, and it continues here for me. Storm, that 1 point miss with the 13+ has not come through for my repeat set bet. And in the 40-20 bet, I've gone for the Sunday shenanigans, and it was anything but, because Warriors head-to-head and Tigers head-to-head, both of them lose, double miss. And then, unfortunately, because of those last two bets, it takes me to a unit loss, -1.9. If the Storm had come through, we would have been looking pretty with a unit gain, but unfortunately it's a loss there.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You always hate when you have those 13+ margins and they come home with 12. You're doing the math in the morning just to see how far you missed on it, or if it was just a half a point one. But those ones are always tough. Performances of the round, mate. I'll start us off on a little bit of a different one. I've got Max Plath. From what I've heard of him coming through the grades, he was a halfback, and he's been absolutely killing it for the Finns this year in the middle. They're at lock at the moment, and for now, he's been filling in at hooker for JMK. On the weekend, he had 1 try assist, 4 tackle breaks, 80 run meters, but he had 63 tackles, and he's just got this engine, mate. He's a workhorse. You see him popping up on the field all the time, just with these hardy plays, and he's just got Queenslander written all over him. I've just been super impressed with him, man. And I honestly think that he's going to be pushing for an origin spot, potentially even next year. He's just growing so much at the moment. It's almost a shame that they don't do like a Dally M most improved player or something, because he would be right up there in the running, because he gets better and better each week. And he's doing this in a position that isn't his position. And he wasn't looking out of place. The service was good enough out of dummy half. I was super impressed, man. Every single week, Max Plath.
Yeah, Max Plath has been real good, man. He's kind of got the fantasy cheese. Fantasy owners will know that he's a half slash mid, which is a just OP combo. And when he's scoring like this, like he is an absolute outstanding player. He's just a workhorse. Like I was looking at his work around the field, and he is constantly like up in the line, pushing the line speed,
Mm.
constantly joining in tackles and making his own tackles. Absolute workhorse, and doesn't look out of place at dummy half either. So obviously a talented dude. I was actually considering doing another Dolphin for my performance of the round as well, and Herbie Farmworth, because I think he's one of the most underrated centers in the game. I think when it comes to conversations around the best centers, a lot of people are throwing out Stephen Crichton and other guys, but Herbie Farmworth, I think because maybe he's English and doesn't play Origin or Kangaroos Kiwis games, that they forget about how good he is. Herbie Farmworth is the man, and he played good again. But if we're sticking on the topic of centers, there was one guy that was an absolute animal this weekend, and that was Katoni Staggs for the Broncos. 2 tries, 163 run meters, get this 4 line breaks, 11 tackle breaks, and he was making a lot of tackles on Valentine Holmes as well. He took that matchup really personally, 19 tackles himself, and you could tell that right from the get-go, like he wanted to defend him well and took him on really physically. So he did that in the first half, but then the longer the game went, the more he grew into it, and he ended up taking the result personally in itself and putting the team on his back, because some of his plays down the stretch were absolutely outstanding, absolute fire under his belly. 64th minute, takes Holmes one-on-one off the scrum and beats him to score and break the deadlock. 67th minute, breaks the line again, leading to the fast play and then Jordan Ricky's try. And then 74th minute, smashes Dearden in a tackle, leading to a knock-on, which Walsh picks up, runs 60 meters. And then off the next play, Staggs pops up on the opposite center, breaks the line again, and then breaks a few more tackles to score the game-sealing try. So he is such a physically gifted combination of like strength and explosiveness. And you just want to see more performances like this from him, some more consistent performances. And then I think there is maybe a recall to Origin in his future, because he has a lot of talent and he's kind of the same mold as Bradman Best, but we're just not quite seeing the consistency. But if we see these performances consistently, world's his oyster.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. And it seems like he's got just like 2 of these in him every single season, maybe for the last 2 or 3 years, where you just know like one of those games from Staggs, he's just going to have like 2 tries, all the tackle busts, the defensive efforts, just everywhere. He's just going to be a beast. And then sometimes he goes back into his shell a little bit. And I agree with you 100%. They just need to bring that sort of out of him a little bit more consistently. And I thought that was sort of what we were seeing from him at the start of the year leading up to that Origin period. He was really starting to build, and then it just sort of flattened off a little bit. I don't know if that was potentially even not making the squad. Maybe that does plateau you off a little bit. I've never been in that situation. But yeah, like nonetheless, man, he's absolutely impressive. And it seems to be when he scores 1, he scores 2, and he's just a beast all the time. We're going to get into the round 24 preview, man. We're ticking them off. Round 24 is upon us. All of these odds are accurate as of Tuesday at 6 p.m. We're kicking it off with the Panthers against the Storm at Bluebet Stadium. The multi-buster, as always, on the Thursday night to kick you off. The Panthers, they are $1.58 favourites. The Storm are $2.39 underdogs, and the line is at 4.5. Ali Katoa returns, so Liero moves back into lock. Nelson moves to prop, and Tui to the bench. For the Panthers, Edwards and Fish have been named among the reserves. Liam Martin and Martin and Sorensen are both out, which sees Maverick Geyer and Liam Henry move into the starting side. Now the Storm, they have a 56% win rate here, but the Panthers have won 4 of their last 5 games against them. At Bluebet, they have won 2 of their last 3 games, and it's a great matchup here after the Storm have had some questionable results here in their last 2 games and a pretty unconvincing finish against the Rabbitohs. The Panthers, though, they've been closing games very, very well over the last couple of weeks, but they've been kind of inconsistent as well. I'm going to back the Panthers in this one, but I wouldn't read too much into any kind of result that's coming out of this, because I don't think Bally will want to show his cards too early up against this Panthers squad in terms of what happens around the spine and that. So I think it's just going to be all in the middle, and it's going to be a potential low-scoring game, a grinded-out affair, which does suit Penrith, and I think they'll get the result there.
Bro, yeah, I completely agree with all of your points, man. They're both the top teams in this competition, and they've shown as much throughout the whole season. But in terms of their last couple of weeks, they haven't looked at their clinical best, both teams, where you still trust them to get the jobs done, but they've kind of looked dusty. And I do think I agree with you. The Panthers are a little more reliable because they haven't lost since Cleary has returned, and he's had a massive impact in all the victories that they've had since him coming back. And I do expect some stars to return for the Panthers, especially with Liam Martin being out. I do expect James Fisher-Harris to maybe get named before kickoff. And Dane Lowry's been good, so I'm not as convinced that they'll push Dylan Edwards, but I could still see him being named before kickoff as well. So they're going to have a strong team going into this game. Whereas the Storm, they're still trying to work some things out on attack. It's actually almost the opposite, the way these teams have been playing. The Storm have been the better attacking team, the better defending team, sorry, and the Panthers have been the better attacking team. So, in clear conditions at home, I do favor the Panthers attack, but I think it will be a close battle, like you said. And I do agree with your points about this game isn't going to be the major read on who is the favorite, the out-and-out favorite in this competition, because both teams are going to be holding cards a little bit close to their bodies. So I am going to back the Panthers at home. I am going to back them 1-12 in a close game, paying $3.10.
Nice. Brian Toto, who scored 6 tries in his last 4 games against the Storm. And the last 3 games between these two of those have gone under the total match points. 6 of those last games at Bluebet Stadium have gone under the total match points as well. So I'm going to take Toto and under 43.5, and that'll give you $4. I always hate these games, mate. Manly, they take on the Warriors at 4 Pines Park. Manly, $1.17 favourites in this one. The Warriors are $5.10 underdogs, and the line is at 15.5. For Manly, LOA, he comes back in, so Brown shifts to the bench, and Kohler has been listed at 18th man as he looks to return. For the Warriors, SJ, he does return after missing the Finns game, and Pompey is back on deck, as well as Montoya, who is also ready to go. With a 62% win rate for Manly at 4 Pines Park, they have won their last 2 games against the Warriors here. It's tough to look away from Manly. They're really, really starting to build into this finals run that they're going to go on. So I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off, get this over and done with quickly. I'm back in the Birds this week at home.
Yeah, well, good scheduling by the NRL. We had the Tana Cup last week, and now we've got the Whittaker Cup this week. So it'll be interesting to see who takes it home, because I believe the last one was a draw. So no one's got the title at the moment. Yeah, I agree with the Sea Eagles, man, because their attack has been firing, scoring 39.5 points per game in their last 4. And they're spreading the ball every chance they get. But they do take their foot off the gas, and they are prone to concede some points. We've seen the last couple of weeks that is the case, where the Warriors have showed some spirit, almost coming back against the Dolphins. And some uncommon for this season attacking ability in the strike zone. So they have looked a little better at times, but they still leave a lot to be desired defensively, especially in around those centers positions. They're really struggling out there. The Sea Eagles, I have to tip. I agree. They're going to be hard to beat at home. 60% at home is just nothing to look away at. But there is a chance of showers, which I think might stem the attack of the Sea Eagles and could tighten the contest up. And the Warriors do have the last win between these teams. So I am going to tip the Sea Eagles, but I am going to play Warriors plus 13.5 at $2.10.
Nice. Try scorers, they're pretty scattered between these two over previous results. So I'm just going to take some guys from the Manly side that have scored quite a few all throughout these games. That's Hamole, Jason Saab, and Tommy Turbo. For all 3 of those, anytime try scorer will give you $6.50. The Roosters, they take on the Eels at Allianz Stadium. The Roosters are $1.14 favourites in this one. The Eels are heavy $5.75 underdogs, and the line is at 16.5. For the Roosters, no changes there from their last 17, and the Eels, they've got no big changes really to their lineup either. The Eels have hit some form lately, but I think they've somewhat run their race now. 13 for 29 here at Allianz Stadium. They have won 5 of their last 6 games against the Eels as well. They have also won their last 4 games in a row against the Eels here. I have a feeling this is just going to be an absolute thumping that the Chooks are going to hand out here to the Eels. They've really put up some resilient efforts. The Wires over there in New Zealand, that was a hell of an effort. And then to go out there and give all of that energy into that Penrith Panthers game there and to just not come away with the chocolates, unfortunately. I know they've got nothing to play for, and that's a very dangerous team, but they've had nothing to play for a little while now, and I feel like they've played those games.
Yeah, I completely agree. I could see the Roosters running away with this game. They definitely have the potential because, like the Seagulls, they are an attacking powerhouse, scoring more than 34 in 4 of their last 5 games, all wins as well. So they're an attacking powerhouse. The Eels, I completely agree. They have looked better the last 2 weeks. They complete high. They're playing tough through the middle, and they're scoring points with ease in the strike zone. And, the Roosters have beaten the Eels the last 2 times, but they did play them pretty tough last time, nearly getting a result go their way. And the Roosters are always a chance for a blowout. So I am going to stay away from a margin because the Roosters are just a little too inconsistent in that department. It's either close or just an absolute thumping. And especially there is meant to be a chance of showers in Sydney. So I will stay away from that, but I will add in some try scorers. Tupou scored a double last time, and Targo scored a double last week. So I'm going to go Roosters head to head, Tupou anytime try scorer, and Manu, who's going to be in that Targo position on the right center, anytime try scorer as well. $4, and I'm going to double stake it.
Ooh, nice, mate. 2 of those 4 games between these two, the Roosters have won by a 13-plus margin. Suoli'i has scored 4 tries in his last 3 games against the Eels. And I'm just going to back in Angus Crichton. He hasn't scored in a while there, mate. So I'm going to take Suoli'i, Angus Crichton, and the Roosters 13-plus, $9. And I'm also double staking this game, mate. So we'll see who comes out on top. Now the Dogs, they take on the Finns at Salter Oval. The Bulldogs are $1.48 favourites in this one. The Bulldogs are $2.66 underdogs, and the line's at a tight 5.5. For the Dogs, 7 returns for them after his jaw injury against the Wires in round 18. And for the Dolphins, Mark Nichols is out for them. Only one game between these two. It actually came at Salter Oval as well last year in round 22, and the Dogs won that one 23-22. So the Dolphins, they've never won here. I think it'll stay that way for them, mate. They've got a 50% win rate here. It is only 1 for 2 games at Salter Oval, but man, they're riding on a high at the moment.
Yeah.
It's like you saw the Wires movement last year, and now it's just the fucking Belmore, it's crazy, man. And I obviously run the social media for our page here, and I've got Doggies fans messaging us saying, come over to the bandwagon this year, boys, because they all rooted for us last year, and they reckon that come join them this year. So unfortunately, mate, my birds are going well in there, but if they topple, I'll jump on the Dogs train over there. But back to the game, I think the Bulldogs will win this.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. There's always a darling team that's not usually up there that makes a absolute jump from one season to the next. Warriors last year, Knights also did it last year as well. I think it was Cowboys the year before. And then you're seeing it with the Bulldogs this year. So I hope they keep this run up, man, because they have a really loud and obviously loud and big fan base that really likes them to succeed. Kind of like the Warriors. They're like the Australian Warriors. So I might jump over too if the Warriors. Yeah, the Boomers. I like it. I might jump over too. I've got a few teams that I'm following, so I don't want to be too bandwagon, but I do like the Doggies. And I do like them in this game as well because they are looking like outside contenders, low key, because defense, as generic as it is, defense does win championships, and they've been defending great, conceding only 15.2 points per game in their last 5 games against some good attacking outfits in the Broncos and the Cowboys as well. So
they're the best.
They're
the best defensive team in the comp at the moment. They've conceded. They've conceded the least amount of tries after the Panthers result on the weekend. So Cam Serraldo, man, after what he did with the Penrith Panthers and that defensive system, it's just in 2 years, it's the Bulldogs now.
Yeah, man, they are looking real good on that end. And the Dolphins are kind of the opposite because they can score high points on anyone, literally anyone. They've run up a good score on, but they also concede a fair few points every week themselves, and they get themselves into these massive shootouts like they were in on the weekend. And I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins actually win this because it's meant to be a real hot afternoon in Bundaberg, 27 degrees or something like that. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Dolphins can really put the defense under a bit of pressure here, but I have to back the Bulldogs as well. I have to back their defense and their form. And I'm going to say it is a close shootout of a game. I'm going to go Bulldogs 1-12 at $3.25 because the last 5 Dolphins games have been 1-12 and 3 of them have been losses. So they know how to get into a close shootout and lose them lately. So I'm going to back a Bulldogs 1-12.
Yeah, I like it, mate. The last game between these two was a 1-12 margin. I'm staying away from try scorers, like I said earlier, with the Dogs. They're too hard to pick, mate. They're all across the board. The centers love scoring, the wings love scoring. It's just tough to pick them. And they've been close wins for the Doggies as of late as well. So I'm jumping on that 1-12 with you, mate, and that's what I'm backing them. I got them at $2.85, mate. So our odds got stifled a little bit here. I don't know if it's the currency exchange rate going a little bit different over there, but that's what I got them at. Now, the Cowboys, they take on the Raiders at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. The Cowboys, $1.48 favourites. The Raiders are $2.66 underdogs, and the line is at 6.5. Townsend, he's been dropped. Clifford in. I actually really like this one, to be honest. Nanai is out with a head knock. Seb Chris is shifted to the wing for Rapana. Strange to centre and Cook to 5'8" for the Raiders. A 25% win rate here for the Raiders. The Cowboys have won their last 6 games in a row against the Raiders and have won their last 3 games in a row against the Raiders at this venue as well. Talked about the dead cat bounce before with the Raiders, the Broncos and the Cowboys game last week. Might be a few guys running away from the Cowboys here, but I'm going to run towards them. I think they'll win.
Yeah, so both these teams kind of got exposed last week, and we've kind of had questions about what this Cowboys team really is. And I think we got shown the Cowboys that we've seen for much of the last 2 seasons, because great on attack, especially in that first half, great on attack, but definitely give up a lot of meters and roll-ons and definitely get broken easily on defense. Whereas the Raiders also got exposed in a pretty similar way, but theirs was more of like a completely coming off their game after a few bad calls went against them. Tarpany getting that a sin bin for dissent, and then they just really got exposed through the middle, and then even on the edge, just everywhere from the Seagulls was really cutting them up. So Raiders a little bit exposed, and to be honest, the Cowboys actually had control for most of the game last week, and I don't think the Raiders can put them under as much pressure as what the Broncos did to eventually break them late into that second half. So I am going to stick with the Cowboys at home, especially in warm, clear conditions, and especially since the Cowboys have had so much success against the Raiders. They've obviously got the formula to beat this team, and I think they're going to do it here at home. I'm going to say Cowboys cover the -8.5 line at $2.05. So a pretty comfortable victory for the Cowboys at home.
Nice. Old friend of the show for me. It's been a while. Kyle Felt. He's scored 5 tries in his last 2 games against the Raiders. And I haven't done a Cowboys big 3 in a little while. So I'm going to go for it again. Taulangi, Felt, and Drinkwater all to score a try at $7.25. The Tigers, they take on the Rabbitohs at Campbelltown Sports Stadium. We talked about this earlier in the year about potentially being the Spoon Bowl. Unfortunately, the Rabbitohs managed to find some recent form. So it looks like the Eels take on the Tigers in round 27 this year. And the Tigers, I believe, do have a bye up their sleeve. So they're actually sitting like pretty dead even, and they've both got a shit run into it. So we might actually see a spoon bowl for the last game of the round. But nonetheless, the Rabbitohs, the $1.46 favourites. The Tigers, $2.73 underdogs. The line, I actually haven't written this down. I feel like it was quite tight, maybe around the 4.5. The Tigers, another wing change for them. Luke Lalili returns from concussion, and Seyfarth has moved in to start as well. For the Rabbitohs, Tallis Duncan, he comes in for Michael Cheekham. Like I said earlier, absolute poo slinger here. Just a total of combined 11 wins for these 2 teams this season. I had a look at that. They just sneak inside the 8 if they combine their 2 margins. 40% win rate for the Tigers. In the South, they have won 1 and lost 1 at the venue. The Rabbitohs have won 8 of their last 9 games against the Tigers, but I actually really like the Tigers here. I feel like they just have like a little bit more to them. They're kind of, I don't know, like I said before, they're both shit teams at the moment. They're in shit form. But I like what the Tigers are kind of doing. Just stuff seemed to happen outside of Lockie Galvin. If they can get a little bit of momentum in here, I feel like anything could happen. So I'm going to back the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to do that, but they kind of burned me last week because I tried to make a play on them last week, and then I've come to realize that these guys are just like unbackably bad. Like 7 losses in a row is just, I just can't back them with any. Well, I just can't back them at all anymore, and I won't because, they do look better on attack. I will agree with that, and they could surprise some people here. But the Rabbitohs just have some more quality players, and I think that's all it comes down to. And then you look at the result a few weeks ago, it was a little bit, it wasn't that long ago, so it was still the Tigers that we're kind of seeing today with the good attack but conceding a lot of points. And the score was 42-28. So I think we can see a pretty similar result to that game. I am going to back the Rabbitohs -8.5 at $2.15. I got not too much to say about this game because, yeah, it's a pretty dusty game for a Saturday night.
My best bet for this one, like I said earlier, everything seems to happen around Lockie Galvin. So he scored against them last time. If they're going to win, it's going to be off the back of just something he creates. And I'm going to back him for a try here. Lockie Galvin to score and the Tigers to win. That'll give you $6.50. All right, mate. Buckle up for this one if you love stats. So before we get into it, Kieran Foran will play his 300th game on the weekend. And the Titans against the Dragons match. He will be the first representative for the Titans as well in that 300 club, which is really special for them. Now, the Dragons come into this as $1.53 favourites, and the Titans are $2.52 underdogs. The line is at 4.5 here. Flano, he's obviously out. Jack Bird, he's been given the reins. He's been out since round 19. For the Titans, Brian Kelly returns for them, so Brimo moves to the bench, and Clark comes in to replace Mo Fodawaker, who is on a one-match ban. Now, if you believe in trends like I do, this week's just an absolute lock. You saw the trend of the Dragons. Since round 14, they've been win-loss, 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 etc., coming with a loss. So it looks like if anything's going to happen, they're going to come with a win this week, Jordan. Well, the Titans, they've never won at Wynn Stadium. 0-5. I'm just going to pick the Dragons here, mate. It's simple. Win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. Titans have never won there. Dragons always win on that one. I'm taking them. It's Dragons to win.
So I had a look at this game and I was like, this is a fucking nightmare game to pick.
Yeah.
Because it's two teams that are like the picture of inconsistency. Like 1 week, well, especially the Dragons with their win-loss record. But yeah, 1 week these guys look like genuine top 8 contenders, and then the next week they're getting the doors absolutely blown off of them. And I had no idea who to pick. And I was actually, I wasn't privy to the stats that you've just brought up. So I was actually backing the Titans just because they were a decent underdog. And I'm sort of thinking against it now because that's pretty juju there. The Dragons love a bit of juju, and that win-loss record is undeniable. And then that record for the Titans at Wynn Stadium is undeniable as well. But
I had to go right back to when they first entered the comp to try and fucking find that. I was sitting on the couch last night just going through games and games and games and games. Shout out to the NRL website.
Yeah. So, I mean, against better logic, I'm just going to stick with the Titans because I see $2.65, and that's the main number here in all of this. They are an underdog, and they've been looking all right in some games. But I'm going to, for my best bet, stick away from any sort of margins, any sort of result, anything like that. I'm just going try scorers because it is meant to be kind of clear conditions, and these teams can kind of explode sometimes. I'm hoping that happens here. I'm going Khan Pereira anytime try scorer, Lomax anytime try scorer, and Kinney anytime try scorer for $8.50.
Oh, juicy, man. I like to see it. So Sloaney, he scored a hat-trick the last time that they played, so I'm going to lock him in for one here. Lomax, he just seems to score all the fucking time. And the Dragons, like you said, you're going against better logic. Well, my logic is win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. They've never won. Dragons win. Sloan Lomax Dragons $4.20. It's a golden number as well there, mate. $4.20. The Sharkies, they take on the Knights at PointsBet Stadium. The Sharks are $1.35 favourites. The Knights are $3.25 underdogs, and the line is at 9.5. Dylan Lucas, he returns for them and shifts into the centre spot for the Knights. The Sharkies, same 17 for them as last week. 58% win rate here for the Sharks at home and a 42% win rate here for the Knights. The Knights have won 5 of their last 8 games against the Sharks, and they have won their most recent meeting by 32 points to 6. But I don't know in this one. I feel like the Cowboys were sort of a team that I couldn't trust, and the Sharks are kind of in that bracket. They looked great last week. Defensively, they were really, really good. But I think just because they held the Titans to a donut is the only reason why I'm going to back them in this one. But the Knights do... Yeah, I don't know, man. This is a tough one to pick as well. I'm going to go Sharks to win this one.
Yeah, the vibe you're giving me is the exact same vibe that I had looking at this game, because I was just looking at it and thinking, I don't fully trust the Sharks, but then the Knights have been very mid. Like, I know they upset me last week because I picked against them, but they still looked very mid to me last week, and they kind of got bailed out by some magic by Fletcher Sharp. Well, four times the magic by Fletcher Sharp and some impressive play by Ponga. But I'm still not overly impressed with them, where I was super impressed with the Sharks. Like, they are defending super, super well. They've only losing to a good attacking team in the Cowboys and Townsville. Their defense has looked amazing in the other 3 games, only conceding 12 points in the other 3 games in total. So, yeah, it was a very simple approach on attack as well, like we mentioned earlier, with them just distributing well, Atkinson and McInnes. And the team was playing really hard through the middle. So they looked pretty quality, but also I fully agree with your points. I can't quite trust them, but I am going to trust them here. I'm going to say that Atkinson can utilize his attacking weapons in the strike zone, and they can get a win over this very mid-Knights team. The last 2 games between them have gone under 48, so I am going to go Sharks head-to-head into total points under 48.5 at $2.50.
Nice. Yeah, I'm keeping it simple here in this one, mate. I think the Sharks win this one, but I think it's a 1-12 margin, and that's $2.95. My best bets for this week: Toto into the points under, in that Panthers versus Storm game, $4 there. Hamole's Turbo, all anytime try score is $6.50. Suoli'i, Angus Crichton into the Roosters, 13 plus, $9, double state that one. The Doggies 1-12, $2.85. Another feature on the big 3 for the Cowboys: Taulagi, Felt, and Drinkwater, $7.25. Lockie Galvin and the Tigers, can they fucking do something? $6.50 there. Sloan Lomax and the Dragons to win, $4.20. And rounding it off with the Sharks, 1-12 at $2.95.
Nice. And I'm going Panthers 1-12 at $3.10. Warriors plus 13.5 at $2.10. Roosters head-to-head, Tupou anytime try scorer, and Manu anytime try scorer at $4, and it's double stake. Bulldogs 1-12 at $3.25. Cowboys minus 8.5 at $2.05. Rabbitohs minus 8.5 at $2.15. Cam Pereira anytime try scorer, Lomax anytime try scorer, and Kinney anytime try scorer at $8.50. And then finally, Sharks head-to-head into total points under 48.5 at $2.50.
Nice. And we're going to round it out with the repeat sets in the 40-20s. Same recipe for me this week, mate. It seems to be working. I've got the Roosters, Manly, and the Dogs all to win, but it's only giving you $1.97 this week. So they're kind of on to me there, the bookies. They know if I'm taking some good heavy favourites in that one, they're going to bring down the juice a little bit, but that's where we're going this week.
And I'm not going to lie to you, I've been very dusty on the repeat set betting. I've kind of copied your recipe here because I've gone Roosters head-to-head and Rabbitohs head-to-head and all Sydney head-to-head at $1.75. So hopefully that comes through for me.
Nice. 40-20 bets, mate. We missed this one by one last week. So I'm just going to give another go. I feel like this is a round where we're looking through. Maybe the only one for me there is the Tigers and the Rabbitohs game there. Might not go our way, but I'm just going to go all favourites to win. And it's brought me back up to that $13.92 mark. So it seems to be around that ballpark figure there for me. So all favourites to win this round.
And once again, I'm going shenanigans to offset that. But just one single shenanigan this week. I saw the Warriors head-to-head at $5, and I thought, hey, that's more than $4.20. I'm going to back them to get it done against the Sea Eagles. Hopefully they can retain the Whittaker Cup.
Nice. And some pretty disrespectful odds. $5 just head-to-head on the nose. And, like, SJ's coming back as well. So there is a little bit of a fairy tale there. Last time playing at Brookie for them as well. There'll be a few Wise fans out on that hill there. That concludes another one, though. We did actually interview Blake Ageford the other night, so that podcast will be up shortly. So stay tuned for that, and we'll have a few more moving forward. But we'll see you guys all next week.